Ambassador Han Minho sat in the waiting room outside the council chambers. He had been waiting for 3 hours. This was normal. Everything at the Galactic Council moved slowly. Very slowly. Han looked at the document in his hands. It was his 47th complaint about the Vakreen Empire. 47 times he had told the council that the Vakreen were breaking the rules. 47 times the council promised to look into it. Nothing ever happened. The Vakreen were a species that loved war, but they were smart about it. They did not attack directly. Instead, they used legal tricks and found loopholes in council laws. They would claim old treaties that nobody remembered. They would file paperwork that took years to process. Slowly, they took more and more territory from their neighbors. For the past 11 months, the Vakreen had been moving closer to human colony worlds. They sent ships into human space. They claimed the territory belonged to them because of some ancient law. Han filed complaints every week. The council said they would investigate. The investigation never started. Han's communication device buzzed. It was a message from Earth. He opened it and his blood ran cold. The message was short. New Jeju is under attack. The Vakreen are bombing civilian targets. Thousands dead. Please advise. Han stood up quickly. He walked fast toward the council chambers. A council guard stopped him. The guard was from the Thalaxian species, tall and thin with 4 arms. You cannot enter, the guard said. The council is in session. You must wait for your scheduled time. When is my scheduled time? Han asked. Next month, the guard replied. Han pushed past the guard and entered the chambers. The council members turned to look at him. They seemed annoyed that someone interrupted their meeting. Meanwhile, on New Jeju, Governor Park Ji-won watched her world burn. The colony had 3 million people. Most of them were farmers. New Jeju grew food that fed 20 other human colonies. It was a peaceful place. There were no military bases, just farms and small towns. The Vakreen attack came without warning. Their warships appeared in the sky and started firing. They targeted the towns first, then the farms, then the water treatment plants. They wanted to destroy everything. Commander Oh Suman led the colony defense force. She had 6 small patrol ships. The Vakreen had brought 50 warships. Oh knew they could not win, but she had to try. She had to give people time to evacuate. Her ships flew up to meet the enemy. The battle was short. Within 20 minutes, 4 of her ships were destroyed. Oh's own ship was badly damaged. She ordered the last 2 ships to retreat and protect the evacuation shuttles. On the ground, Park Ji-won helped load civilians onto transport ships. She saw her daughter running toward her. Behind her daughter, a Vakreen missile hit the ground. The explosion was massive. When the smoke cleared, Park's daughter was gone. Park fell to her knees. She could not move. She could not think. Someone grabbed her and pulled her onto a transport ship. As the ship lifted off, she watched her colony burn below. The attack lasted 6 hours. When it was over, 47,000 people were dead. 200,000 were injured. Most of the colony's infrastructure was destroyed. The Vakreen had filed the appropriate paperwork with the council, claiming they acted in self-defense. On Earth, President Kim Tae-young received the reports. She sat in her office and read the numbers. 47,000 dead. She read the names. She looked at the pictures. Children, elderly people, farmers who had never hurt anyone. Her military advisor, Fleet Admiral Lee Hee-jin, entered the office. Lee had been expecting this day, not hoping for it but expecting it. She had been preparing for it since Earth joined the Council 31 years ago. Madam President, Lee said, Operation Swift Hammer is ready. We can launch within 6 hours. Kim looked up at her. Tell me the truth. Can we win? Yes, Lee replied. We have been preparing for this. We built our fleet in secret. We trained our people. We studied the Vakreen military. We can defeat them. What about the Council? Kim asked. They will try to stop us. Let them try, Lee said. By the time they finish their first committee meeting to discuss whether to have a second committee meeting, we will have already won the war. Kim stood up. She walked to her window and looked out at the city below. Millions of people going about their lives. They did not know that everything was about to change. How long? Kim asked. 4 weeks, Lee said. Maybe less. The Vakreen have never fought anyone like us. They think they know humans because they studied our history. They studied wrong. They learned about our wars, but they did not understand what they mean. Kim turned around. Do it, launch Operation Swifthammer, and may God forgive us for what we are about to do. 6 hours later, Ambassador Han stood in the council chambers. The council had finally agreed to hear his emergency statement. It had taken them 6 hours to decide if his statement was actually an emergency. Han placed a data crystal on the central podium. He did not bow. He did not ask for permission. He simply spoke. Members of the council, he began. 11 months ago, I filed my first complaint about Vakrine aggression. You promised to investigate. 10 months ago, I filed my 10th complaint. You promised action was coming. 6 months ago, I warned you that people would die if you did nothing. You told me to be patient. Today, 47,000 of my people are dead. They died while you debated. They died while you processed paperwork. They died while you followed your procedures. The council chamber was silent. No one spoke. They had never heard anyone talk to the council this way. Earth, as is our right under Article 12 of the Council Charter, hereby declares a state of war with the Vakrine Empire. This declaration is effective immediately. We will not be filing a formal complaint. We will not be requesting an investigation. We will not be waiting for your deliberation. The council erupted in chaos. Species that had existed for thousands of years shouted in confusion. The Thalaxian observer, who had lived for 6 centuries and seen everything, fainted from shock. War declarations took years, not hours. This was impossible. The council chair, a being named Thex who looked like a large insect, finally managed to speak. Ambassador Han, this is highly irregular. You have not exhausted diplomatic channels. You have not filed the appropriate documentation. You have not even mobilized your forces. Han smiled. It was not a happy smile. We mobilized 31 years ago. The day we joined this council and realized how long it takes you to actually do anything. Our fleets are already moving toward Vakrine space. They will arrive in 48 hours. That is impossible, Thex said. Fleet mobilization takes months, sometimes years. You cannot possibly have moved that quickly. Watch us, Han replied. He turned and walked out of the chamber. Behind him, the council dissolved into argument. Some species demanded that Earth be expelled immediately. Others called for sanctions. A few asked what Article 12 actually said. Nobody could remember. It would take weeks to look it up properly. On Earth, news anchor Yoon Dae-ho broadcast the declaration to the entire planet. For the first time in 31 years, humanity was at war. Not a civil war between human factions. A real war against an alien species. People gathered in the streets. Some were scared. Some were angry. Some were sad for the people of New Jeju. But everyone understood one thing. The rules had changed. Humanity had shown the galaxy that they would not wait for permission to defend themselves. In orbit around Earth, Fleet Admiral Lee stood on the bridge of her flagship. Around her, 200 warships prepared to jump to hyperspace. These ships had been built in secret over the past 3 decades. The other species knew Earth had a small defense fleet. They did not know about these warships hidden in asteroid bases and deep space stations. Lee looked at her officers. They were young, most of them. They had trained for years for this moment. Some looked nervous. Others looked determined. All of them looked ready. All ships, Lee said into her communicator. This is Fleet Admiral Lee. Today we defend our people. Today we show the galaxy that humanity will not be pushed around. Today we go to war. The fleet jumped to hyperspace. In that moment, the galaxy changed forever. 48 hours after the war declaration, Commodore Shin Yunho sat on the bridge of his cruiser. Around him, his battle group moved through hyperspace toward the Vakrine military station called Fortress Krell. This was humanity's first strike. Shin was nervous, but he did not show it. He had trained for this his whole career. He knew the plan. He knew his people were ready. But this was different from training. This was real, his communication officer spoke. Sir, we will exit hyperspace in 10 minutes. Enemy station will be in weapons range immediately. Good, Shin replied. Prepare the broadcast. All frequencies. All languages. The fleet dropped out of hyperspace. Fortress Krell appeared on the screens. It was massive, a military station the size of a small moon. Its shields glowed with power. Hundreds of weapon platforms covered every angle. The Vakrine commander at Fortress Krell, a warrior named Drax, watched the human ships arrive. He was not worried. His fortress had never been defeated. The shields could stop any weapon known in the galaxy. These humans were fools to attack directly. Then Shin's broadcast came through. You have 1 hour to evacuate all civilian personnel. After 1 hour, this facility will be destroyed. There will be no negotiation. This is your only warning. Drax laughed. He actually laughed. The humans thought they could destroy Fortress Krell in 1 hour. Impossible. He sent back a message. Humans, you are welcome to try. Our shields will hold. You will waste your ammunition, and then we will destroy you. Shin counted down the time. 59 minutes later, only a few Vakreen civilians had evacuated. Drax did not believe the threat. He thought it was a bluff. Fire, Shin ordered. The human ships did not fire energy weapons. They did not fire missiles. Instead, they launched objects that looked like metal rods. These rods accelerated to incredible speed, a significant fraction of light speed. This was relativistic bombardment, a weapon the Vakreen had never encountered. The rods hit Fortress Krell's shields. The shields, designed to stop energy weapons, did nothing against solid matter moving at near light speed. The physics were simple and brutal. Mass times velocity equals momentum. At these speeds, even a small object carried devastating energy. The first rod punched through the shield and hit the station. The explosion was massive. The second rod followed. Then the third. Then dozens more. Each impact released energy equivalent to a nuclear bomb. Fortress Krell broke apart. Drax had time to send one final message before his command center exploded. How is this possible? Nobody answered him. The galaxy watched the destruction in real time. Every major species had intelligence ships near Vakreen space. They all saw what happened. They all recorded it. Within hours, the footage spread across 1,000 worlds. Council Intelligence Officer Vrex, a species that looked like a floating jellyfish, studied the attack from his office. He had been analyzing human capabilities for years. He thought he understood them. He was wrong. Vrex pulled up human history files. He read about their wars, about their weapons development, about their philosophy of conflict. And then he understood. Humans did not think like other species. Other species built defenses and then built weapons to defeat those defenses. Humans built weapons that ignored defenses entirely. He sent a report to the council. The subject line was simple. We have made a terrible mistake about humanity. Supreme Commander Grath of the Vakreen Empire sat in his command bunker deep underground. He watched the reports from Fortress Krell. His most powerful military station destroyed in minutes. Destroyed by a species he had considered weak. Grath called his advisors. We need to counterattack immediately. Show these humans they cannot threaten us. One advisor, an older warrior named Vex, shook his head. Supreme Commander, perhaps we should reconsider. These humans fight differently than we expected. We should study their tactics before we commit more forces. Grath slammed his fist on the table. No, we show strength. We attack their colonies. We make them afraid. Prepare assault groups for all human border worlds. Meanwhile, across Vakreen space, human forces struck again and again. Captain Anjasu led a destroyer squadron against a supply depot. The Vakreen expected a long siege. Instead, the human ships deployed boarding teams that cut through the station's defenses in hours. The supplies were destroyed. The station was left intact but useless. Lieutenant Commander Choi Min-seo commanded a fighter wing in the Sigma sector. The Vakreen sent interceptors to stop her, but human fighters were faster and more maneuverable. They used tactics that seemed reckless to the Vakreen. They flew closer, took more risks, accepted casualties that other species would not tolerate. Choi lost 3 pilots in the engagement. It hurt. She knew their names, their families, their dreams. But her wing destroyed an entire Vakreen patrol group and secured the sector. The mission succeeded. On Earth, Fleet Admiral Lee watched the tactical displays. Every battle was reported to her in real time. She saw the victories. She saw the losses. Each loss was a name she had to remember, a family she would have to visit. But the strategy was working. The Vakreen military was being torn apart piece by piece. Their supply lines were cut. Their reinforcements were intercepted. Their commanders were confused and disorganized. They had never fought an enemy that moved this fast. In the council chambers, debate raged for days. Some species wanted to intervene immediately. The Zafrani Coalition, a group of peaceful species, proposed sending peacekeepers to stop the fighting. Their representative, a gentle being named Kayla, pleaded for reason. Violence only breeds more violence, Kayla said. We must stop this war before it spreads. The humans must be made to see that war is not the answer. Ambassador Han stood to respond. He did not shout. He did not need to. The humans did not start this war. The Vakreen attacked our civilians. They killed 47,000 innocent people. And where was the council? Where were your peacekeepers when our children were dying? Kayla had no answer. Other species watched the war with different eyes. The Draxian hegemony, the most powerful military force in the galaxy, observed with professional interest. Their leader, High Chancellor Vorn, was a massive being covered in armor like scales. Vorn called his military advisors together. What do we know about human military doctrine? His chief advisor, a veteran commander, presented the analysis. They fight like they lived on a death world. Everything about their tactics suggests they evolved in constant competition. They accept risk. They value initiative over consensus. They move fast and hit hard. They are essentially what we would be if we had their emotional drive. Vorn nodded slowly. I want to meet their fleet admiral after this war ends. Anyone who can organize this kind of campaign deserves respect. 2 weeks into the war, Major Kang Jihye led her Marine battalion on an assault of an orbital weapons platform. The platform threatened human evacuation routes from contested zones. It had to be taken. The Vakreen defenders fought hard. They had been told that humans were soft, that they would retreat under pressure. They learned differently. Kang's Marines fought room by room, corridor by corridor. The battle lasted 8 hours. When it was over, the platform was secured. Kang lost 23 Marines. She sat in the command center after the battle, exhausted, looking at the list of names. 23 people who would never go home, but 3,000 civilians had escaped using the route her battalion protected. The math was cold and brutal. 23 lives to save 3,000. It was the kind of calculation that wars demanded. On New Jeju, Governor Park Ji-won worked on rebuilding. The scars of the attack were everywhere. Burned buildings, empty streets where neighborhoods had stood, memorials for the dead. Park had lost her daughter in the attack. The pain was constant, a wound that would never fully heal. But she channeled that pain into action. She organized reconstruction crews. She coordinated with supply ships from Earth. She met with survivors and promised them that New Jeju would live again. One day, a communication came from an unexpected source. It was from Acting Regent Vex of the Vakreen Empire, the civilian who had replaced the military commanders. The message was brief but significant. Governor Park, I know words cannot undo what was done. But I want you to know that many Vakreen civilians opposed the attack on your world. We did not want this war. I hope someday we can build peace between our peoples. Park read the message 3 times. She did not know if she could forgive. But perhaps someday there could be understanding. As the war entered its 3rd week, the galaxy realized something important. This was not just a war. It was a statement. Humanity was telling the entire galaxy that they would defend themselves, regardless of what the Council said. They would not wait for permission. They would not follow procedures that got their people killed, and slowly other species began to understand. The Council's slow processes worked when everyone agreed to wait. But they broke down when one species decided that waiting cost too many lives. In the Council chambers, Ambassador Kix of the Peltheran Republic requested private audience with Ambassador Han. The two met in a quiet garden outside the main complex. Kix was an insect-like being, wise and ancient. He spoke carefully. Ambassador Han, officially I must condemn your actions. The Council requires this, but personally, I am glad someone finally showed the Vakreen that their aggression has consequences. They have bullied smaller species for decades. Intelligence Officer Nam Soo-yun stared at his screens. Something was wrong. Very wrong. His sensors detected a massive fleet moving toward the Sol system. The Vakreen were coming to Earth. Nam hit the emergency alert button. Within seconds, alarms sounded across every military facility in the system. The Vakreen were attempting a decapitation strike. They wanted to destroy Earth itself and end the war in one devastating blow. Supreme Commander Grath had gathered every warship the Vakreen Empire could spare. 300 vessels, pulled from defensive positions across their territory. It was the largest fleet they had ever assembled. He broadcast his intentions to the entire galaxy before jumping to hyperspace. The humans want war? Grath said in his broadcast. We will bring war to their doorstep. We will show them the cost of their aggression. We will make them beg for the Council to save them. On Earth, Vice Admiral Hong Seojun received command of the home fleet. He was younger than most admirals, but he had earned his position through skill and dedication. Now he had the most important job in human history: defend Earth from total destruction. Hong looked at the tactical display. The Vakreen fleet outnumbered his forces 3-1. But this was Sol system. This was home. Every orbital platform, every satellite, every weapon was under his command. And the humans were defending their birth world. Hong addressed his fleet. Today we face the enemy at our gates. They think they can frighten us. They think we will surrender to save our world. They do not understand humans. We do not surrender, not when our families are behind us, not when our planet is at stake. Today we show them why you never attack a human's home. The Vakreen fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. Grath smiled when he saw the human defensive positions. They had fewer ships. This would be a quick victory. The Battle of Sol began. The Vakreen advanced in their traditional formation, massive capital ships in the center with smaller vessels protecting the flanks. It was a formation designed for overwhelming force. It had won them many victories. The humans did not meet them in traditional formation. Instead, they scattered. Small groups of ships attacked from different angles. Fighters launched from hidden positions in the asteroid belt. Orbital platforms that looked like space stations suddenly revealed weapons. Captain Lim Donghae commanded the cruiser Indomitable. His orders were simple: stop the Vakreen dreadnought from reaching the inner system. The dreadnought was 10 times larger than his ship. It had shields that could withstand incredible punishment. Lim looked at his crew. They were scared. He was scared. But they had a job to do. All power to engines, Lim ordered. Ram it. His crew stared at him. Sir, you heard me. Full speed. Aim for their engine section. We are going to hit them so hard they will not forget it. The Indomitable accelerated. The Vakreen dreadnought fired at them, but Lim's ship was small and fast. They dodged most of the fire. What they could not dodge, they absorbed. The ship shook with impacts. Systems failed. People died, but Lim kept going. At the last moment, he activated the self-destruct sequence. The Indomitable slammed into the dreadnought's engine section at full speed. The explosion was massive. Both ships died, but the dreadnought's destruction opened a gap in the Vakreen formation. Hong saw the gap and sent orders immediately. All units concentrate fire on the breach. Hit them now while they are disorganized. Lieutenant Park Yoonji flew her fighter through the chaos. She was tired. Her fighter was damaged, but she saw something that made her blood run cold. A Vakreen missile barrage was heading toward an evacuation ship full of civilians. Thousands of people who were trying to escape to the outer colonies. Park changed course without thinking. She put her fighter between the missiles and the evacuation ship. Her targeting computer calculated her chances. 0% survival. She did not care. Park fired at the missiles with everything she had. She destroyed some, but there were too many. So she did the only thing she could. She flew directly into the center of the missile swarm and detonated her fighter's reactor. The chain reaction destroyed most of the missiles. The few that survived missed the evacuation ship. 3,000 people lived because Lieutenant Park Yoonji chose to die. The battle raged for 14 hours. Every minute was desperate. Every decision mattered. Hong coordinated the defense from his flagship. Barely sleeping, barely eating, just fighting to save his world. The Vakreen kept coming. For every ship the humans destroyed, 2 more pushed forward. Grath was committed. He would win or he would die trying. But the humans were defending their home, and humans fighting for their home were the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. Slowly, the tide turned. The Vakreen formation broke apart. Their commanders, used to fighting methodical battles, could not adapt to the chaos. The humans were everywhere, hitting from unexpected angles using tactics that made no sense to traditional military thinking. On Earth, people watched the battle on every screen. They saw their defenders fighting. They saw ships explode. They saw the sacrifice. In the streets, people prayed. They held each other. They waited. President Kim sat in the Emergency Command Center deep underground. She watched the tactical displays with Fleet Admiral Lee beside her. They could not help. They could only watch and hope. Kim thought about the cost. Thousands of her people were dying above. Ships worth billions were being destroyed. But if they lost, everything would be gone. Madam President, Lee said quietly, "We are winning." Kim looked at the displays. Lee was right. The Vakreen fleet was breaking. Their formation was shattered. Their ships were scattered and damaged. Supreme Commander Grath sat in his command ship, watching his fleet fall apart. He had been so certain, so sure that overwhelming force would win. But the humans fought differently. They fought like every battle was their last. They sacrificed in ways that other species could not understand. Grath's second-in-command approached him. "Supreme Commander, we must retreat. We have lost 2/3 of our fleet. If we stay, we will all die." Grath wanted to refuse, to keep fighting, but he looked at the tactical display and knew the truth. The battle was lost. The war was lost. "Sound the retreat," Grath said quietly. 12 Vakreen ships managed to escape. The rest were destroyed or captured. The human fleet had won, but the cost was terrible. Over 4,000 human personnel died in the battle. 30 ships were destroyed. Hundreds more were damaged, but Earth still stood. Humanity had defended their homeworld against the largest attack in their history. Hong stood on the bridge of his damaged flagship and looked at Earth below. The planet looked peaceful from orbit. Beautiful. Home. "All ships," Hong said. "The enemy has retreated. The battle is over. You have saved our world. You have saved everything. Thank you." Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched the aftermath. They saw the debris field where the Vakreen fleet had been. They saw the damaged but victorious human defenders. They saw what happened when you attacked a human homeworld. In the council chambers, absolute silence reigned. No one spoke. No one moved. They had just witnessed something that would change galactic politics forever. Ambassador Han stood and addressed the council. "Members," he said calmly, "do we still need to debate whether the Vakreen are a threat? Do we still need to process paperwork? Do we still need to follow procedure?" The council had no answer. On the Vakreen homeworld, Acting Regent Vex watched the same reports. Grath was dead. The fleet was destroyed. The Empire was broken. And it was all because they had attacked civilians on New Jeju. Vex made a decision. He sent a message to Earth, marked urgent, to President Kim Tae-young. "We surrender, unconditionally. Please, end this war." The war was over. It had lasted exactly 28 days. President Kim Tae-young sat across from Acting Regent Vex in a secure conference room. The meeting was being broadcast across the galaxy. Everyone wanted to see how this would end. Vex looked tired. His species aged rapidly during stress, and the war had taken years off his life. He placed a datapad on the table between them. "These are our surrender terms," Vex said quietly. "We accept full responsibility for the attack on New Jeju. We will pay reparations. We will withdraw from all disputed territories. We will submit to council oversight of our military. We ask only that you show mercy to our civilian population." Kim read the document carefully. It was everything Earth had wanted. More, actually. The Vakreen were offering complete submission. She looked up at Vex. "Why did you attack New Jeju? Why start a war you could not win?" Vex shook his head sadly. "Supreme Commander Grath believed your people were weak. He thought the council would protect you. He thought you would negotiate rather than fight. He was wrong about everything." "Yes," Kim said simply. "He was. I accept your surrender. The war is over." The treaty was signed in less than an hour. No lengthy negotiations, no months of debate, just a simple agreement that ended the bloodshed. The galaxy watched in amazement. Peace had come as quickly as war. On Earth, people celebrated in the streets. The war was over. They had won. But the celebrations were quiet, respectful. Too many had died for loud victory parties. This was relief, not joy. At military hospitals across human space, Dr. Seo Hana continued her work. Thousands of soldiers needed help processing what they had experienced. Many could not sleep. Many had nightmares. Some could not talk about what they had seen. Dr. Seo met with a young pilot who had flown in the Battle of Seoul. The pilot's hands shook when he tried to drink water. He could not make eye contact. "You are safe now," Dr. Seo said gently. "The war is over. You survived." The pilot looked up at her. "But my friends did not. I watched them die. I could not save them." Dr. Seo had no easy answers. She could only listen, offer support, and help these broken warriors find their way back to peace. On New Jeju, Governor Park Ji-won stood at the memorial for the dead. The monument was simple, a wall with 47,000 names carved into black stone. Her daughter's name was there. She touched it gently. "We won," Park whispered. "The Vakreen surrendered, but you are still gone." Someone approached behind her. She turned and was surprised to see Acting Regent Vex. He had come to New Jeju personally, against the advice of his security team. "Governor Park," Vex said, "I know I cannot bring them back. I know words are worthless. But I needed to see this place to understand what we did." Park studied him. "Why are you here?" "Because my people need to remember," Vex replied. "We need to remember the cost of aggression, the cost of arrogance. If we forget, we will repeat our mistakes." Park nodded slowly. She did not forgive. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But she appreciated that he came. Fleet Admiral Lee retired 2 weeks after the war ended. She could not continue. The weight of every decision, every casualty, every sacrifice was too much. She had done her duty, but the cost had hollowed her out. At her retirement ceremony, President Kim presented her with the highest military honor Earth could give. Lee accepted it quietly. She did not make a speech. She just wanted to go home and try to find peace. But the council asked her to stay involved. They offered her a position as military advisor, the first human to hold such a role. Lee almost refused. Then she realized that she could help prevent future wars. She could teach other species what this war had taught humanity, that sometimes the best way to avoid conflict is to be strong enough that no one dares attack you. She accepted the position. In the council chambers, the debate about humanity continued for months. Some species wanted to punish Earth for their aggression. Others wanted to learn from them. A few wanted to expel humanity from the council entirely. Ambassador Han stood before the council once again. He was tired of these debates, tired of explaining, tired of justifying why humans had defended themselves. "Members of the council," Han said, "you can debate forever if you wish. You can condemn us. You can try to punish us, but nothing will change the basic facts. The Vakreen attacked our civilians. We responded. We won. That is reality. The question now is simple. Do you want humanity as part of this council? Do you want our strength, our industry, our ideas, or do you want us to leave and build our own alliance?" The council chamber fell silent. No species had ever threatened to leave before. But everyone knew Han was serious. The humans would leave if pushed too far. Ambassador Kix of the Peltharan Republic stood. "I propose we stop debating what happened and start discussing how to move forward. The war is over. Humanity has shown its strength. Now let us use that strength to make the council better." Other ambassadors murmured agreement. Slowly, the tide turned. Instead of punishment, they discussed reform. Instead of condemnation, they discussed cooperation. Over the following months, a dozen species approached Earth privately. They wanted military cooperation agreements. They wanted to learn human tactics. They wanted alliances that would protect them if they ever faced a threat like the Vakreen. Defense Minister General Kwak Yeon-soo handled these negotiations carefully. He built a network of allies without making it look like humanity was trying to create a competing power block. Each agreement was small, reasonable, and mutually beneficial. But together they represented something new, a group of species who valued action over endless deliberation, who believed in mutual defense, who understood that sometimes peace requires strength. The Draxian hegemony watched these developments with interest. High Chancellor Vorn invited Fleet Admiral Lee to visit the Draxian homeworld. She accepted, curious about these beings that everyone feared. When they met, Vorn was direct. "Admiral Lee, your campaign was impressive, brutal, but effective. You understand something that most species do not. Peace is not the absence of war. Peace is the result of being too strong to attack." Lee nodded. "That is one way to look at it. But strength alone is not enough. You also need restraint. You need to know when to stop." Vorn considered this. "Yes, we have strength. You showed restraint. Together we could make the galaxy much safer. They did not form an alliance, not formally, but they established a dialogue, a mutual understanding. Two powerful military forces that respected each other. It made everyone else nervous, which was exactly the point. On the Vakreen homeworld, acting Regent Vex worked to rebuild his people's reputation. The Empire was broken, its military reduced to a fraction of its former size. But perhaps that was not entirely bad. Vex focused on civilian projects, trade, culture, education. He taught young Vakreen about the war, not as a glorious conflict, but as a cautionary tale. This is what happens when leaders choose pride over wisdom. Some of the old military commanders resented this. They wanted revenge. They wanted to rebuild the fleet and try again. Vex removed them from power. The Vakreen had learned their lesson, even if some individuals had not. Journalist Bayek Ji-yeon published a book about the war. It became a bestseller across dozens of species. She told the human side of the story, but fairly. She showed the costs, the sacrifices, the reasons. She helped the galaxy understand why humanity had acted as they did. The book's final chapter was titled, The Human Condition. It explained that humans were not uniquely violent. They were uniquely decisive. They acted when action was needed. They fought when fighting was required. And they stopped when the objective was achieved. 6 months after the war, the Council formally apologized to Earth. Not for the Vakreen attack, but for their own failure to act. Council Chair Thex made the statement personally. "We failed you," Thex said. "Our processes, designed to prevent hasty action, instead prevented necessary action. We will do better. It was not enough to bring back the dead." But it was something. The galaxy had changed. Humanity had forced that change through blood and fire. Now came the harder part, building something better. 3 years had passed since the war. Ambassador Han Minho walked through the council gardens enjoying the peaceful morning. The gardens were designed to represent plants from hundreds of worlds. It was one of the few truly beautiful things about the council complex. Ambassador Kira, a young Vakreen diplomat, approached him. She had been a student during the war. Now she worked to rebuild relations between their peoples. "Good morning, Ambassador Han," Kira said politely. "Do you have a moment?" "Of course," Han replied. They sat on a bench overlooking a pond. "We have a situation," Kira began. "Two smaller species are having a territorial dispute. It is getting heated. Both sides are mobilizing forces. We need to prevent another war." Han listened as she explained the details. It was exactly the kind of problem the old council would have taken months to address. The kind of problem that could escalate while bureaucrats debated. "What do you propose?" Han asked. Kira showed him a plan. It involved rapid arbitration, clear timelines, and immediate consequences for aggression. It was based on the reforms humanity had pushed through after the war. Han smiled. "This is good work. Present it to the council. I will support it." The irony was not lost on either of them. A human and a Vakreen, former enemies, working together to prevent conflict. This was what peace looked like. The council had changed significantly since the war. President Kim's reforms had passed, creating a rapid response security council with real authority. It could act within days instead of months. It had prevented 3 potential conflicts already. The reforms were not perfect. Some species still complained that the council moved too fast now. Others said it still moved too slow. But it was better. Measurably, provably better. On Earth, memorials had been built for those who died in the war. The largest was in the capital city. A beautiful structure of white stone that listed every name. Every year on the anniversary of New Jeju's attack, people gathered there to remember. President Kim attended every year. She would read some of the names aloud. She would meet with families. She would carry the weight of the decision she had made to go to war. Her chief of staff once asked her why she put herself through this. "Why not send a representative?" "Because I gave the order," Kim replied. "These people died because of my decision. The least I can do is remember them." On New Jeju, the colony had been rebuilt. New towns stood where old ones had burned. New farms grew where destruction had reigned. The population had returned slowly but steadily. Governor Park had retired, but she still lived on New Jeju. She visited her daughter's grave every morning. She talked to her about the day ahead, about the progress of rebuilding, about hopes for the future. One morning, she was surprised to find flowers already on the grave. Fresh flowers, not wilted. Someone else had been there. A note was attached. From the Vakreen people, we remember. We are sorry. We will never forget. Park sat by the grave and cried, not from anger anymore, from something more complicated. Perhaps it was the beginning of healing. At the Institute for Galactic Understanding, Dr. Jang Yuna taught a class on comparative military doctrine. Her students came from 20 different species. They studied how different cultures approached conflict, defense, and peace. One student, a young Vakreen, asked a difficult question. Professor, are humans more violent than other species? Dr. Jang considered carefully before answering. No, every species is capable of violence. What makes humans different is not their capacity for violence, but their comfort with decisiveness. Most species deliberate before acting. Humans are more willing to act quickly when they believe action is necessary. Is that good or bad? Another student asked. Neither, Dr. Jang replied. It is simply different. The key is finding balance. Too much deliberation and people die while you debate. Too much action and you make mistakes you cannot undo. The galaxy needs both approaches. At human military academies, alien students now trained alongside humans. Commodore Shin, the hero of Fortress Krell, taught a popular class on rapid decision-making. His students learned to trust their instincts, to accept calculated risks, to move fast when speed mattered. But Shin also taught restraint. Knowing when to strike is important, but knowing when to hold back is equally important. Power without wisdom is just destruction. His most dedicated student was a Vakreen officer named Terran. The young officer had joined the military after the war, wanting to rebuild his people's honor through discipline and professionalism. Terran approached Shin after class one day. Sir, may I ask a personal question? Of course, do you hate us? For what we did to New Jeju? Shin was quiet for a long moment. I hate what was done. I hate that people died. But do I hate your entire species? No, that would be illogical. You were not even there. Most Vakreen were not there. A few leaders made a terrible decision and many people paid the price. Terran nodded slowly. We are taught about New Jeju now. In school, it is a required subject. So we never forget what arrogance costs. Good, Shin said. Learn from it. Then do better. Artist Cho Minji's sculpture Balance had become famous across the galaxy. Copies stood in dozens of cities on dozens of worlds. The image of two beings, different but cooperating, resonated with people everywhere. Cho was interviewed by a galactic news network. What does your sculpture mean? The reporter asked. Cho smiled. It means that we are stronger together than apart, not because we are the same, but because we are different. Human decisiveness needs galactic wisdom. Galactic wisdom needs human action. Neither is complete alone. 10 years after the war, the Council held a special ceremony. They commissioned a new ship, the largest diplomatic vessel ever built. Its mission was to travel between worlds, promoting cooperation and preventing conflicts before they started. The ship's name was UES New Jeju Memorial. Its captain was Commander Oh Suman, who had defended the colony during the original attack. Its motto, inscribed on every bulkhead, was simple: never again. At the launch ceremony, Ambassador Han gave a speech. He was older now, his hair gray, but his voice was still strong. 10 years ago, we went to war, Han said. It was brutal. It was costly. It was necessary. We did not want war, but we would not let our people be slaughtered while bureaucrats debated. Today, we launch this ship not as a weapon, but as a promise that we will work together to prevent future wars, a promise that we have learned from our mistakes, a promise that no other species will have to choose between following procedure and protecting their people. The crowd included humans, Vakreen, Draxians, Peltharans, and dozens of other species. They applauded together. Later that day, Han met with a new human diplomat named Jung Mirai. She was young, brilliant, and had never known a galaxy where humanity was not respected. For her generation, human strength was a given. They did not have to fight for recognition. It had already been earned. Ambassador Jung, Han said. I am retiring next year. The council wants you to replace me. Mirai was honored but nervous. Sir, I do not know if I can fill your shoes. You do not need to, Han replied. You need to walk your own path. The galaxy has changed. Your challenges will be different from mine. But remember this. We earned our place here through strength, but we keep it through wisdom. Never forget either lesson. Mirai nodded. I will not let you down. That evening, Han returned to the gardens where he had met with Ambassador Kira earlier. He sat on the same bench and watched the sun set over the alien landscape. He thought about the journey. From those desperate days when the Council ignored human complaints, through the horror of New Jeju, through the fury of war, to this moment of peace, it had not been easy. It had cost thousands of lives. It had scarred a generation, but perhaps it had been necessary. Perhaps there was no other way to make the galaxy understand that humanity would defend itself. The galaxy still moved slowly. But when speed mattered, it could act. That was the difference. That was what the war had bought. Han closed his eyes and thought of all those who had died. Captain Lim, who rammed his ship into the dreadnought, Lieutenant Park, who sacrificed herself to save civilians, the 47,000 people of New Jeju who never got to see this peace. I hope this was worth it, Han whispered to them. I hope we built something worthy of your sacrifice. The next day, Han woke early and went to the council chambers. There was work to do. There were always disputes to resolve, agreements to negotiate, crises to prevent. The galaxy never stopped needing diplomacy. But now, finally, the council had the tools to act. The wisdom to deliberate when time allowed. The courage to move quickly when lives were at stake. Balance. That was the word artist Cho had used. Balance. The galaxy had found balance. Not perfectly, not completely, but better than before. And that, Han thought, was worth fighting for. Years later, when historians wrote about this period, they would call it the human integration era. The time when one species, through blood and sacrifice, forced the galaxy to evolve, to become more than it had been. Some would say humanity was too aggressive. Others would say the council needed to be forced to change. But everyone agreed on one thing. The galaxy after the war was better than the galaxy before it. Safer, more responsive. More united in purpose if not in method. The price had been terrible. But the result was real. On New Jeju, in the center of the rebuilt capital, the memorial stood. 47,000 names carved in stone. Above them, a simple inscription,